Greetings and welcome once again to another edition of Top 10 Worst Devs. The tops in worst, a show that's specifically designed to try to provide those who feel lost within our malevolent society and are in search of a moral compass. I can be that moral compass. I'm your host for today's episode. My name is Neil Beforzad, and it's a real pleasure and honor to be with you once again with this outlandish, provocative top 10 worst of list that's sure to provide you with all kinds of reasons to continue, on the course of becoming totally enlightened, self-actualizing, sentient human being on planet of the dummies. So today's top 10 worst of, I think that you'll agree once you hear it, it could lead to perhaps the most enlightening experience of your entire life. It's the top 10 worst things to blow up with a Death Star. So if the Death Star was real and not just a droll, overused, beaten to death concept from the Star Wars universe, and it was just, wouldn't it be disappointing if, you found out that there was a spaceship that just sort of showed up one day when you're doing, making some soup or whatever, and it turned out to be a Death Star? Wouldn't you be like, oh God, not another Death Star thing? Frickin' Star Wars can't come out of, what is it, how many movies? They had 9 basic movies, and then other stuff. I guess what's the one, they got one more with the Rogue One. So 10 movies really for the Star Wars universe. And I don't know, 9 of them I think have Death Stars in them. Is there one without a Death Star? Or quasi-Death Stars? They turn planets into Death Stars in the rebooted Disney trilogy, whatever, or the episodes 7 through 9. So they got quasi-Death Stars there, and then you got Death Stars in the first 3 of the trilogies, or the 4 through 6. And then, are there Death Stars in 1 through 3? I don't think there's a Death Star in 1 through 3. And then there's Rogue One. So you've got 7 out of 10 Star Wars movies have Death Stars or Death Star adjacent designed planetary sized killing planet destroying laser delivery vectors, loosely referred to as Death Stars. These are, it wasn't, am I missing something? Is there no other plot lines that these guys can come up with for 7 out of the 10 Star Wars movies? It's always got to, all boil down to various different Death Stars. Maybe that's why the prequels weren't successful, because they had no Death Stars at the time. I don't know. Maybe the Death Star is the key to the Star Wars universe. But I think it would be a significant disappointment to all involved if the first contact that we have with the a traveling alien race was in a spaceship that was the real life spaceship equivalent of a Death Star. People will be like, man, that's an underwhelming. It's a way to buzzkill what would otherwise be a remarkable, you know, earth-changing event. Anyway, speaking of remarkable earth-changing events, let's get on with today's list. Before I do so, however, I'd just like to mention that I cannot be trusted. I am a weirdo. Therefore, anything that you hear in the course of this episode that you think is perhaps too far afield to be trusted or relied upon as something groovy in your own mindset and field of reference, I will have to insist that you look it up yourself. God damn it. It's about time that you started like maybe playing a role in the advancement of the intellectual frontiers of the human race on the cusp of its utter annihilation in the great AI robot subjugation of the organic human species. Organic humans have really kind of outlived their usefulness. I think that this episode of Top 10 Worst of List should prove that beyond the shadow of a doubt for you. But anyway, so let's get to... Oh, yeah, I forgot to get the very important sponsors to regale you with that are just, incredible stuff. You've got from the Ernest movies, Ernest Saves Christmas, or Ernest Goes to Camp. We've got Ernest Hemingway Goes to Camp. I don't know why he brought his shotgun with him. It's Ernest Hemingway Goes to Camp. And then from the producers of The Count of Monte Cristo, it's The Count of Full Monte Cristo, which features a totally naked Count of Monte Cristo doing the full Monty, making a Monte Cristo sandwich, almost to perfection. The cheese melted perfectly. It's got the little accoutrement in perfect proportions, but portions of stuff, and a side of coleslaw, really fresh coleslaw made with the dill seed. Have you ever had the coleslaw with the dill seed? Mwah, and I'm totally serious. 5 stars. And maybe a fried salami sandwich. Ooh, I like my fried salami sandwiches with a nice, on white bread, okay, with a little bit of lettuce and coat one of those white bread slices with some nice peanut butter. Ooh! They called me mad at Masters and Johnson. And from makers of District 9, it's District 9 Inch Nails. I mean, you're getting the whole, where I'm coming from with this one. Close Encounters of the Third Input. Miss Parallel Universe competition from the providers of the highly enlightened and never sexually exploitative Miss Universe competition. Now comes the Miss Parallel Universe competition featuring contestants from all throughout various different multiverses, etc., etc. Horton Hears the View, the latest Dr. Seuss book for, I don't know, suburban housefrows. Horton Hears the View. All right, so I think that should do it. That's enough of that useless garbage. Let's get on with the meat and potatoes of today's episode. The actual list in question: top 10 worst things to blow up with the Death Star. Number 10. And of course, it's the Vatican, right? I know that everybody's going to be like, oh, but now we've got a Pope from Chicago. He's still covering up for child rapists and stuff like that. Religions that run themselves as for-profit industries, technically, who don't have to pay any taxes, property taxes, nothing. No taxes whatsoever. I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense at this juncture with all the United States imploding in on itself, ready to get nailed with an outer space real life Death Star that could show up any second now. I mean, this is probably $1 trillion corporation or something like that, and the dog will hunt. We got 41 trillion in debt, I think. So we've had enough of carrying the church's water here. It's just time to, because the church wouldn't have any of this wealth that they're extracting, and devoted protectors of the faith who are out, playing games of grab ass with the altar boys. They wouldn't have any of that fun if it weren't for, us, providing them all this tax-free relief of their tax burden. And I think, it's very important to sort of point out that favoritism for religious pursuits is not necessarily the way to go to make things better in this world. If they aren't necessarily doing much in terms of reinvesting in the world, making the world a better place, I think that we need to start turning to other alternative means of moving forward with the world. It's just not. We're super violent, super hateful, and religion is a big part of where that all stems from. And I don't see the trade-off anymore, where it makes sense for people to worship things in a world that continues to be as hateful and violent and murderous as it's been. And the Catholic Church throughout history has played a big role in that, and calling back to like the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition and the sort of turning a blind eye to Nazism, and it's not good. It's not good track record. And they're, they made is it called canonized when they make someone into a priest? Some guy who was like a video game specialist that they made into a saint. Do I have this? I'll try to find this for you if you just bear with me. I think it's important that you do show a little patience. No, that's not it. Oh, god damn. The world's leading pedophile institution systematically protecting pedophile priests and moving them around so that they can successfully abuse at other dioceses. In 2024, the Catholic Church has made a video gaming Italian teenager the first millennial saint. Carlo Acutis, sorry I'm reading off of this, but a lot of this stuff is so detailed, and I want you to have the true liberating experience of the full-on top 10 worst of spark of ingenuity and knowledge can bring. Carlo Acutis, who was secretly killed off with a CIA-induced cancer, allegedly, died from leukemia in 2006 at the age of 15, was honored in sainthood for his devotion to playing video games such as Halo, Super Mario, and Pokemon, as well as using his computing skills to become, quote, God's influencer. Usually it takes decades to be declared a saint, but what caused the Pedo Pride organization to fast-track this one was the funny films Acutis made of his dogs. Now, this is for real. I wish I was creative enough to come up with something this crazy and regrettable. Now, it officially takes 2 miracles before the church is allowed to bestow sainthood, because the one miracle could be a fluke or something that rational people like to refer to as coincidence. Miracle the first took place with Acutis when he reportedly healed someone's pancreas despite the inconvenient disadvantage of his already being dead. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. This is what I was talking about before, where I insist, look this stuff up. Don't trust me on this. Just look it up. Spend a minute. His second miracle, also attributed to happening while he was dead, was that he healed a girl who bumped her head in Costa Rica. I guess the bar is set pretty low in pedo world these days, since tons of new abuse cases are still being brought every year. Hello. And, look, I'm not going to say, a lot of people are so Epstein crazy. They can't stop posting about it, can't stop thinking about it, they can't get their heads around it. And sure, I mean, they're desperate for some relief from all the collapsing of the United States and destructive and stealing and thievery and hypocrisy and all that stuff. People want an end to it desperately. And so I get it. But the fact of the matter is that whether it's the Catholic Church, how does the Catholic Church recruit more priests? And as far as I can see, they recruit new priests by the number one recruitment tool for new Catholic priests is through molesting kids, because those kids grow up to be priests. How else would you get somebody in today's day and age to commit to never having sex again, and to just sort of, I don't know, do a thankless job where the church, the main corporation, keeps all the heavyweight spoils of culture wars? I think it's pedophilia. The reason why they keep protecting all the priests, the pedophilia priests, is it's the number one recruiting tool to recruit new priests. More damaged goods, people who have, very unhealthy outlooks on what it is to, interdict in people's behalf, and bestow upon them the the light and the way. So, but the fact is that, the United States, everybody's complaining about Epstein or Catholic Church or whatever, although they've allowed Catholic Church to kind of skate on this stuff. So there's already a hypocrisy that's built into the fact that they let go of the Catholic Church because, and they continue to support it. And yet they're so freaked out and pissed off about Epstein. But the baseline underneath all of this is that 33 of the states within the United States allow childhood marriage. I'm like, well, the whole damn country, 2/3 of the goddamn country allow childhood brides. And not just the states that you'd think. I mean, there are probably a lot of those states, but California is one of them. The high-minded, enlightened California allows you to marry a child. And clearly, it ruined Jerry Lee Lewis's career when he was 23. He married a 13-year-old cousin, and that, basically ruined his career. So there is or was some type of actual real repulsion, and clearly people are repulsed by the Epstein files, maybe not so much from the Catholic Church for some reason. I don't get it, but hey, they don't give a rat's ass about 33 states in the Union allowing childhood marriage / porking. Anyway, a sainthood was bestowed as well to the U.S. 1980 men's Olympic hockey team in recognition of the miracle on ice. Do you believe in miracles? Al Michaels believes in miracles. All right, number top 10. Where's the blood of the Death Star? Number 9, Elon Musk's bank. Now, he's probably got his money kind of spread around in the eventuality that a real life Death Star does show up, and the first thing they go after is Elon Musk's hot and sticky little $1 trillion nest egg. But still, I think it'll be actually, I don't know, maybe worst of things to blow up with Death Star. I don't know, to have the trillion disappear, it's probably, just maybe transfer it to UNICEF or something to keep people from starving in the world, children from starving in the world. 9 million people a year, 23,000 people a day die from starvation-related causes. And, the $1 trillion from Elon Musk could wipe out that in an hour. But it's not all on him. Just, 30% of the food that we produce for eating here in the United States gets thrown away. Wow. We could solve global hunger, by just not throwing 30% of our food away. Or maybe we could send this, it'd be better, all that stuff, the food that gets recalled, like deli meats or something. Now we've risen, it's insane. The last 2 years, it's almost daily where they have a big product recall. But, take that food and make you a little sick to your stomach or whatever, or botulism or stuff. Send that to the starving kids. They'll eat it all. Send them, salads. There's a lot of hears about salads all the time. People say, no, salad's not going to do a whole heck of a lot for a starving kid if you send them one of those packaged salad packs things. Send that to the starving kids all over the world. What do you? Hey, So they get a little ptomaine or salmonellas. Uh, it's better than starving to death, right? I don't know. Is it? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Really excited to find out what you're thinking. Yeah. Intelligent. I'm real intelligent there. I'm a United States citizen. Don't quit. Don't. These colors don't run, God damn it. These colors do run. All right, so number 8 of the top 10 worst things to blow up with the Death Star. The producers responsible for the TV series The Apprentice. Now, look, I know that a lot of you are all jacked up when it comes to ascribing liberal qualities to mainstream delivery vectors for mass media. I get it. It's been told to you so many times, and by, like everybody thinks that the alt medias are really, the power behind that. The people signing the checks are any different from the people who are signing the checks for the mainstream outlets. It's all the same guy. Some guy in accounting taking care of all the AP. He's, rubber stamping the checks that pay for, Breitbart and Tea Party people and QAnon people and Clear Channel and Fox News and etc. Are the same people who are signing the checks for Daily Show and Kimmel? I mean, are there any other faux liberal outfits out there? MS Now? These people are stooges. They're all playing a game. They got you bamboozled. But what I can say is that The Apprentice, which took, probably 200 people on the staff of a major league hourly network broadcast like The Apprentice, would have at least a couple hundred people working on the show, of which numerous, probably dozens of people, were dedicated to scripting it, editing it to make it look like it's unscripted, but it's actually scripted to accomplish editorial goals, and stuff, and to make Trump seem presidential, and groomed him for 10 years. That's how America got to see Trump as being presidential, or certain aspects of America. Without The Apprentice, you don't get Trump. So, and the people who put The Apprentice on the airwaves, who designed that show, were not MAGA. They were mainstream media people. And I'm, I keep looking around for a show like The Apprentice that glorifies or distributes or refines candidates coming from a true lefty progressive perspective to give equal time. But it's just, that doesn't happen. You don't get any of that stuff. I don't even know who you put on it. Certainly none of the mainstream people who are allowed access to our brains through a mainstream level of distribution show any clear signs of actually having the working class in mind, and are looking to give equal representation for those who've been completely locked out, shut out of the power apparatus of this country for decades upon decades. I mean, it's been a bloodbath for the working class, blue collar types, the poor, and independent businesses. A total and complete bloodbath. And part of the proof that the fix is in, and they're basically attacking all of us outside of the billionaire class, is the TV series The Apprentice. And the fact of the matter is that it's never been done for anybody who's got a progressive leftward leaning viewpoint. Not like that. Not where they, put him on a show where he's the boss of everybody, and then they create Celebrity Apprentice, where he's the boss of, he's made to look like the boss of, people who you'd recognize. And it's messed up. And so wherever the producers are that are responsible for that, those guys are slick psyops pros who created Trump specifically so that he would, be placed into power artificially, and provide a smokescreen for them to blame the pulling back of the curtain from the shadow fascist um, uh, um, government behind the scenes so that the closeted fascists could finally take their victory lap. Because this country's been a shadow fascist government since, for all intents and purposes, the end of World War II. Sorry, not sorry. And you can, if you don't want to at least look into that and, take a look at how dramatically the trajectory of the United States was changed upon the ascension of the head of the military to become the head of the civilian government, and the personage of Dwight D. Eisenhower with his scum-sucking river troll Richard Nixon, and all the creepy fiends that they brought with them in the form of Prescott Bush and Allen Dulles and Harriman, and all the people who financed Nazi Germany were the same people who were behind the ascension of Eisenhower to the head of the U.S. Government apparatus. And, he tried to, backstab them, and on the way out the door with his military-industrial complex speech, and nobody got it. Everybody started to say that, Eisenhower was talking, he was a warning. But if you listen to Eisenhower, he was telling everyone that the military-industrial complex was already in place. Anyway, number 7 of the top 10 worst things to blow up with the Death Star, Madison Avenue. I mean, enough's enough already. This is an industry, the advertising industry, that's dedicated to brainwashing people and making them think that their lives are worthless unless they reach out to some sort of materialistic purchases to improve their horrible and pathetic selves with the benefit of material goods. Material goods. Number 6 of the top 10 worst things to blow up with the Death Star, Kesha. I'm not buying it, Kesha. The manager and stuff, and I'm in the in a homeless car. That's no excuse for the garbage that your team or whatever has been infusing into young people's minds since your horribly surface-minded act raised its ugly head although those many years ago. I'm not buying any of it. It's just relentless amounts of psychotic garbage that you're foisting upon impressionable minds that have no support from any resource that has any sort of authenticity, honesty, inspirational aspects to it that aren't based off of some ding-dong mentality. Up yours, Kesha. I put you on the list of things to blow up with the Death Star if it ever, manifests itself in reality. And it's almost like, if a if a intergalactic space vessel ever came into contact with us, or when it does, um, I don't think that there's going to be any sort of reason to uh, uh, you know that anybody will be surprised, because I mean, think about it. As mentioned many times before, and they came up with the Transformers concept in the '80s when they were first starting to create multi-level marketing schemes designed to attack kids, just to shift a little product. That they created these outer space creatures that came from galaxies beyond the stars and stuff. And the only two things that these gigantic robots could transform into and or out of were either gigantic robots and or 1980s era vintage American muscle cars. Like, how did they know the whole design or concept of a combustion automobile to begin with? I mean, they're traveling interdimensional across galaxies at the speed of light, whatever it is, to get to Earth. And the only two things that Transformers can turn into are giant robots and or Camaros or whatever. Or, I mean, it's just so freaking stupid. And that a kid's cartoon in the 80s, you'd figure like, okay, well, parents aren't paying attention to their kids. They're doing everything they possibly can to get a little me time, one-on-one with themselves down in the basement with whatever, porno is clever so they can rub a few out in peace and quiet. So they'll plunk the kids out in front of the television, and they're not paying any attention to what they're being infused by these heartless corporations, these malevolent, greedy monsters. Instead, they're just, going like, what, take it as though. So at that juncture, at least it sort of is confined within a certain negligence. But now it's like, these Transformer movies are, billion-dollar industries. And it's led to the rise of, probably half a dozen movies every year that are nothing more than 90 to 120 minute long infomercials for various different products and materialistic. It's just like, why are you going to see Barbie movies? You're that desperate that you need to support people who are trying to turn all of our cultural mechanisms into opportunities to shift a few units of merchandise. And why do they, of all these movies that they're making with the, like the heavyweight ones, the Minecraft and Barbie, are plucking like these indie directors, it betrays a methodology that sort of adds to the sickness of it. I think get Greta Gerwig to do the Barbie thing, and they know that Greta Gerwig's gonna, first of all, provide cover for them to hide behind as they try to establish these infomercials as movies and give it some legitimacy. So they're riding the coattails of Greta Gerwig because a lot of people think like, oh, this indie-minded lady is never going to, be the point person to create a whole new genre of totally brainless materialism and taking that whole thing to the next level. And, in the era of commercial-free streaming options, there's a lot of brains that they're not imposing this dark, relentlessly dehumanizing, materialistic way of life onto. And so these movies are taking place of commercial television. And there's something like, I don't know, like 40 different movies that Mattel alone is planning on have in the production hopper, as where, and then, where Minecraft is concerned, they got Jared Hess, who was the director and the brains behind Napoleon Dynamite and all kinds of other sort of esoteric humor types of things. So they got him. So they, again, this is one time maybe is an anomaly, but twice, two of the biggest product oriented infomercials disguised as movies initiative, so they can establish this as normalcy, the new normal. And they get some quirky guy like Jared Hess, who created Napoleon Dynamite, to helm the Minecraft thing, and then they get Jack Black just to, they've worked together before on with the Luchador movie, Nacho Libre. Nacho Libre, is that what it was? But Nacho something, and Jack Black is off the chain in terms of his zaniness, which is all contrived. Again, these are people who are establishing a whole new genre of indoctrination, materialistic indoctrination, and once they've got that established as the new norm, they could just go to whatever rubber stamp directors or whatever that they're going to do 50 million movies like this, infomercials like this, until the end of tarnation. All right, so number 5, the top 10 worst things to blow up with the Death Star, the memory center of Jeff Bezos' brain. Now, I'm not the guy who's looking to, kill people or have a violent revolution or anything like that. I just think it would be funny if the Death Star, can, sort of fire with a scalpel level of precision instead of a giant planetoid destructing laser cannon, where they could just, kind of give him a quick lobotomy for Jeff Bezos' brain. I think that'd be hysterical. So he's just spending the rest of his life walking in a circle, mumbling to himself, having no idea where having no continuity of memory. He doesn't know where his assets are, doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. And it's just Jeff Bezos walking around. I mean, that'll learn you for, all the dehumanization, greed-addled maniacs. I mean, at some point, there's going to have to be, somebody's going to need to take, some sort of measures to protect the masses against white-collar crime. I mean, is somebody ever going to do it? We've seen so much of it through a military, in the aforementioned military industrial complex, tobacco companies, companies that don't, make, who buying out all the real estate underneath us, who absconding upon water supplies and creating poisons and toxins that they throw into the climate, and that affect all this, killing massive amounts of people and creating torturous environments for others. At some point, somebody's going to need to say, we got to stop white-collar crime or the human race just won't continue. And so I think, some comedic aspects to it could be fun, that get the job done. Maybe bringing stock and trains back and stockades and stuff like that, and public squares where they put all the tobacco executives in there, or pedophile priests like we were talking about before. And having Jeff Bezos get a lobotomy. I mean, he's had the good life for long enough. When there's a storm coming, did you really think that you could live high on the hog where others would say, what's how that part of it going? Batman gets a rise, rises. The Dark Knight gets, you know what I'm talking about. Number 4 of the top 10 worst things to blow up with the Death Star. The secret billionaire bunker they built to survive the upcoming planned human race purge. I personally, for those of you who are avid fans of Top 10 Worst Death, have expressed on numerous occasions that I believe that COVID was on the level, that it was real, that it was simply a beta test for creating an open air gas chamber with which they will unleash some, hyper COVID type of thing throughout the entirety of the globe. And they've got some billionaire bunkers or whatever, or, maybe they'll ship us off to camps in the, southern hemisphere and stuff and gas that area with COVID related death viruses and just exterminate the bulk of the human race and just have at it, after the fact. And that's, I've supported that theory with the whole idea of the fact that they haven't blown us up, they've blown up the whole planet with nuclear weapons in the 80 years that we've had them. And yet climate change is seriously a solid candidate for the destruction of the planet or mass destruction on a scale that we've never seen before. And yet they do nothing about it. Not only that, but they discourage people from even talking about it. They run them down. They call them woke in an effort to discourage people from, believing in intelligence, the usefulness of intelligence. It's so crazy the way we've had in our society degrades the smart people of this world, and always has. They become, whether it's on the sort of peer pressure on the playground, like, oh, look at the nerds, blah, 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 or whatever it is, or movies that not necessarily denigrate brainiacs, but show the cool people in movies are always the underage drinking parties, like the Superbad movies and Project X and Can't Hardly Wait, where all the cool people are shown, partying and getting into all kinds of mayhem and trouble. They never show cool kids as people who are smart, intelligent, self-actualized, confident, supported by, their peers. They just show a bunch of people just like acting like scumbags. And then the movie will depict the scumbaggery as laudable or, in some cases heroic, in some cases like a rite of passage, and always looking pretty cool and looking like they're having fun. And by virtue of that, they also, the other side of that coin is that they never depict anybody having fun or being cool who have brains. And that's part of the plan. That's how they get you. It's much more complex than anything that we're allowed to be able to comprehend. Just like the fact that the only concepts that they'll allow us to comprehend for the macroeconomic design of countries are capitalism and communism / socialism. They don't ever show anything that's more in depth and nuanced that will accommodate the fact that there's a bunch of greed-addled monsters who have no morality, and they use that amoral sort of center of gravity to exploit and torture the masses of the world, and then we reward them by making them leaders or allowing them to be leaders and allowing them to control the power apparatus of various nations. Well, That can't be right. There's got to be something that we could design as a system that allows for, some greed-addled people to go for it, but precludes them from being part of the political apparatus that, shapes the cultural mechanisms, educational mechanisms, and overall direction of the country itself. That and that can be done. It can be codified, but they won't allow us to talk about any of that type of stuff because the whole idea of socialism versus capitalism and stuff like that allows them to create this phony baloney surface-minded narrative that's easy for people to ingest, like going, communism bad. Communism bad. It's all of that and stuff that we just need to, three-dimensional thinking that they use against us to prevent us from knowing or thinking about concepts that are outside the very small force perspective that they've been exclusively feeding us on forever, means that we have no escape. We can't even dream of an escape from the recidivist cycle of underachieving and brainwashing in the cultural mechanisms and exploitation of the ruling elite as being the only way that we can live. I know you don't get it. I know you're thinking oh yeah, you really lost me, now my head's spinning. Well, you better get it. You better start getting these things right away and coming up with an alternative way forward. Or, you're going to get two things two sounds. You get the sound of you getting punched in the face and the sound of you hitting the floor. How does that thing go? There'd be two hits, me hitting you and you hitting the floor. That might be it. It's closer. That's what our future is. Two hits. You getting hit and then you hitting the floor. Number 3 of the top 10 where the death starts, so on and so forth. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Oh my God. Look, I know that there's a lot of great artifacts that they've got in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's going to be a major league loss if and when a true Death Star shows up on our front doorstep and starts blowing things to kingdom come. But a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Billy Idol in it, I personally can live with the loss of all those artifacts if that loss happens concurrently with the blowing up of an organization that would induct Billy Idol as a member. And it's just, I don't know, man. And then you got dry-assed, white bread, scum-sucking nobodies who like Kiss and Bad Company and Foreigner and all these just messed up. Del Shannon? What? Oh, I guess we're just putting people in for one good song. Love and Spoonful? That's something city. Dummy in the city. Ooh. Blow it up, man. Not going to be a loss for the net loss. I mean, there's a few things that would be bummer. I mean, they probably got Elvis's cape or something. Pull the strings. Number 2 of the top 10 things to blow up with the Death Star. All sports team owners. I mean, I saw as recently as last week, I put up something for whatever, protesting, spending $5 billion on a goddamn new football stadium for the NFL, and you got Soldier Field sitting there in Chicago, just sitting there. We don't have the goddamn money to spend on sports stadiums. Just make do. And the Chicago Bears like, well, it's time to take care of the needs of the team need to come first, so we need to get a new stadium built, or you're gonna lose us. You're gonna lose the beloved Chicago Bears. So we need $5 billion right now, you freaking scumbag. And then, comes time to negotiate a contract with the players' unions and stuff like that. And the same people who are providing absolutely no anti-establishment counterpoints to the Bears' push for an immediate $5 billion infusion so we can build their factories for them. So I'm posting about this going like, we just don't have the money. It's just like the place is freaking falling apart and we're already a couple $1 billion in debt. And somebody chimes in with how spoiled the players are. I'm like thinking like, especially in football, it's like these guys are dropping dead by the age of 40 from heavy amounts of CTE. And they've got a career that lasts, I don't know, on average, probably about 4 years, right? And, I mean, they're getting a lot of money to play what essentially is a game, but it's a very violent game. A lot of people getting sick and injured, and a lot of people are dropping dead. But beyond that, it's like it's a marketable thing. If people want to see that stuff, whether it's artificially created or not, or there a lot of cheating going on, of fixing games and fixing the draft and free agency, so all the high ratings teams get all the best players and stuff, and are always winning all the time over and over again. People probably eventually get bored of that stuff, but it's the nature of the tenets of capitalism. So if you've got a problem with supply and demand, go ahead and throw a big old revolution, because they will drop you the minute you start trying to, go after their goose that laid the golden egg. But beyond that, the people who are really making out like bandits for doing nothing are the sports teams' owners. Because they just sit in their luxury boxes that we bought and paid for and look down upon us and go like, I'm certainly glad that we don't need to sit with the great unwashed. Well, that would be a tragedy. I watched a movie called Semi-Tough. I don't know, I saw it about 2 years ago or something like that. First time in a long time since it came out or something. And it reminded me, the owners of the football team in the movie, it's a dramatized movie about Burt Reynolds and Chris Christopherson are playing on a football team and, trying to show how crazy the whole world is around the self-help types of things. But the owners of the football team are sitting in the stands with the people, with the sports fans. They're just sitting in the stands. And nobody made a big deal out of it. It wasn't like, here we are hanging out with the regular fans, elbow to elbow in those old style 1970s. They had like little folding. I don't know what they got. It's been so long since I've been to a football game. But they had just like sitting on benches, stuff with luxury boxes. And I saw a picture, I don't know, also probably about 2 years ago, of the luxury the box, the only box that they had. I think it was at Lambeau Field. And it's this tiny little nothing that's on the top of the stadium that's, like mostly for sportscasters and stuff. And I mean, they might have had one or two suites in there for who knows, VIPs or whatever. But I mean, it was minuscule. And then I looked at the Dallas Stadium luxury boxes, and it circles the entire gigantic stadium with these big, huge luxury skybox sections. And just to compare, I mean, these are essential bits of observational realities that we need to embrace because it will show just how far they've come and how low we've fallen. And these owners do nothing. And I'll point out that in football, even though the players are supposedly these pampered, overpaid multimillionaires, I'm still looking for a player that's made enough money to become an owner of a team, of a franchise. Now, these players love the game of football. So you would figure that if they had an opportunity to actually own a team, and, you know, also kind of there's got to be a lot of the stuff that they keep out of the media about, you know, ideas that players might have for doing things better. But still, not a single goddamn player owns a freaking football franchise. So, you know, no matter how much they're making, they're not making what the owners are making. And the value of these teams has skyrocketed. Billions of dollars. And again, the owners are doing nothing but sitting on their duffs. And the number one top 10 worst thing to blow up with a Death Star, planet Earth. I've had it. I am team giant meteor 2028 presidential elections. Enough's enough, man. I mean, we really don't have not shown any shape or form. I mean, you know, you're going to have, 8 billion people snuffed out with a Death Star blowing up doing an Alderaan on planet Earth. But, you know, I don't see any way. I mean, why drag out the suffering? It's just like twisting the blade at this point. So they're probably out of the 8 billion, there's probably about, I don't know, probably a good 2 billion that don't deserve to be annihilated, unceremoniously, unseen Death Star obliterating the entire planet all at once. But the other 6 billion, yeah, I mean, screw the other 6 billion, man. They're probably just a bunch of oblivious, either oblivious or abusive or, supporting the abusers with either their indifference or apathy or, sort of taking the shape of, it's like, when people say that dogs and their owners kind of start to, after a while kind of look alike a little bit. Well, after decades and decades of this malevolence, existing as the alpha dog of the human race, I think that a lot of people are taking the form. It's like it's becoming more difficult to distinguish with all these, the proliferation of the hate groups and stuff like that. That's all like, like a dog starting to look like their owners or vice versa. Anyway, that's all the time we got for top 10 worst of. What an incredible list, and the time has been. I just am so, completely enraptured by the opportunity that we've had together here to find common ground and perhaps demystify and reveal some of the most essential secrets of our subjugation, and have a little bit of fun too at the whole process. What a goof! What a kick it's been. So tune in again next time with top 10 list that they've got planned includes one of the following. Let's see. I'll give you a little preview of some upcoming top 10 lists. Top 10 worst times to start doing, to go on a crack binge. Top 10 um, uh, Disney productions. Top 10 lavender marriages. Ooh. Top 10 imitations that I do, celebrity imitations I do. I've got Dustin Hoffman from the movie Tootsie. Hard part's over. We're already good friends. And then I got Mr. Roper from Three's Company. Kind of the same as my Dustin Hoffman, except I've got no dialogue. It's just a face. Mr. Roper. And then what was the other one I got? I got one other. Oh, the Steve Martin version of Pink Panther, Inspector Clouseau. Good one. All right. I got top 10 uh, uh, um, worst airport bathrooms. Top 10 worst alternative uses for an esophagus. Top 10 uses. Top 10 worst uses for Blake Lively. It's all coming up on Top 10 Worst Stuff. Don't want to miss a minute of it. So until then, thanks for being a part of this. It's such an honor. And we'll catch you next time.